If you've heard all the hype about this thing called Claude Code and you're still not sure whether or not you should care, this mini course is for you. Now, most tutorials out there jump straight into a terminal and skip the bigger picture of how things like Claude Code can make you superhuman, whether you're technical or non-technical. And for this video specifically, I'm aiming to empower and upskill as many self-identifying non-technical people as possible. Because while Claude Code did start and continues to be a developer tool, it's quickly evolving into something so accessible that practically anyone can take advantage of it if they know what to do, what buttons to press, and how to structure projects. So in this course, I'm going to break down what Claude Code is in plain English. And through me explaining that, you'll be able to better understand why Claude Code is a huge paradigm shift compared to all the other vibe coding tools and context engineering tools that are currently out there. But aside from the conceptual, I'm going to walk you through how to set up and use Claude Code step by step, and I'll do my best to make as many things make sense as I possibly can. And last but not least, you'll leave this video with a free mega guide of how to use Claude Code, some common commands, and enough of a cheat sheet to get you up and running, whether you're technical or non-technical. If you're ready for step one of becoming more superhuman, let's jump in. Alright, so this is the lay of the land for our entire mini course, where we're going to go from understanding why Claude Code is so hyped right now, and most importantly, how to tactically use it. Very similar to something like a video game, wherever there are cheat codes in the process, instead of having separate videos just for cheat codes, I'm going to weave in any cheat codes or ways to make things easier as much as I can while we go through all the steps, both the conceptual ones and the technical ones. Now, what is all the fuss about this thing called Claude Code? So on the face of it, it's very similar conceptually to other AI coding platforms out there like Cursor, Windsurf, RuCode, and the rest of the tens of other alternatives. And to be frank with you, I haven't touched Claude Code up until this month because I usually have a personal motto, especially in the generative AI space, where if something or someone is very much overhyped or in trend, I usually stay away from that trend as long as possible until I see whether or not it has some legs that's worthy of me actually shifting the way I do things or shifting the tools I use. So the reason why I have this Game of Thrones picture here is when that came out years ago, I waited through season 1, season 2, and season 3 before I had the urge to actually go and invest, because I saw that there was some form of longevity in that series. Now, if you've ever watched it and you know how it ends, don't worry, this is not how this tutorial is going to end. It's going to end a lot brighter. Sorry for the spoiler alert. But regardless, once I realized what Claude Code could do, then I understood why it's truly a step change. And just as a disclaimer, this is not a sponsored video. I hate changing tools. I hate switching stacks. So it has to be something very compelling for me to do so. And once again, we ask the question, what is all the fuss about this tool? Now, I'm going to have a lot of visuals here. I made them primarily for myself, but if you are a visual person, I hope they help you. Claude allows you to create what are called sub-agents. So there's all kinds of abuse of the word agent in this entire space. There are workflows that are literally A to B that we call agentic. There are chatbots that we call agents. And then there are things that are actually semi-agentic. Let's say an end-to-end workflow with a series of AI agent nodes and sub-agents. In the land of Claude Code, we are one step further on that agentic scale, where I won't say that they have full autonomy or they can run completely maniacal on their own with no human intervention, but we are definitely closer to that point. So you can see here, you can not only spin up different agents in Claude to help you accomplish different tasks, but what's really important is that they all operate in parallel. And I'll tell you why that's important. So typically, in using something like Cursor or Windsurf, when you want to build something, let's say you want to build a to-do list app or a finance tracker, name anything that's easy for you to conceptualize. It's typically taken one step at a time. So you have a to-do list and you go through that to-do list and check off one thing after the other. And what happens is, if you're using an AI coding platform like Cursor, where it's much more sequential in nature, you'll realize that if you're trying to do very big tasks and you're not being very efficient in the way you're executing those tasks, that's where you have a conversation that gets short consistently, and you have to keep restarting the operation, and you'll notice that you're always ramming different parts of what's called a code base, which is basically where all the code and information lives, and then you get this suboptimal conversation where sometimes you can build things, but for some reason you keep spinning on certain areas. Now with Claude Code, when you spin up these sub-agents, each one technically has its own fresh blank slate context window. And what's cool is, as of this recording, Anthropic released a 1,000,000 context window for Claude Sonnet 4, which is a huge change. Up until now, Claude has always been limited, even though it's been such a great coding partner, at using only 200,000 context window, which if you're trying to generate something or have a simple back and forth conversation is more than sufficient. But once you start building and investing in the features of a production level web application or any application of any sort, you'll notice that not having additional context basically hinders your ability to keep moving forward. If you're just using Claude to build some form of application that's pretty simple or having a normal back and forth conversation, 200,000 tokens is more than enough to get you there. But if you want to be able to build production level code, having something like a 1,000,000 context window gives you a lot more breathing room, a lot more bandwidth to go back and forth and get to the crux of not only planning, but also building multiple features in the same thematic area or domain area in one shot. So from an experience standpoint, you write better code without you writing the code. You're just using natural language prompts to try to execute the next part of the workflow. But once it actually accomplishes the thing, one, it's really good at showing you its work, meaning the to-do list, and two, you have a longer shelf life for your conversation before the language model begins to really hallucinate and you need to begin a new session. Not only that, I'm going to show you very shortly what are called slash commands that will allow you to do things like summarize your conversation or make it more compact so you can keep having that conversation, especially if you're in the middle of it or in the zone, so you don't have to restart from scratch. Now, if all of this is new to you, then you might be asking a very astute question, which is what happens to all of the other tools on the market? The Lovables, the Bolts, the Replets, the Base 44s, the insert name of brand new tool that's come out in the past few weeks. Being able to use Claude Code doesn't necessarily negate being able to use these tools to go from 0 to 20 to 30%. The key thing here is that it doesn't have to be either or. I see a world where for someone that is less technical or non-technical, you can use these tools to go from 0 to 30, 40%. And once you're there, within a few clicks and copy pastes, you can export the project from these platforms to something like Claude Code to keep going and really take your project to the next level without having to worry about spaghetti code being generated, without you being able to be involved in every part of the process. Because while all of these tools, and more tools will come out in the future, to shortcut this entire process I'm about to show you, if you know how to actually manipulate Claude Code in its essence, at its root, then everything related to these tools will be so easy for you to manipulate. Because you'll know that you'll have this skill set that will allow you to push these platforms as far as they'll naturally allow you to build whatever you're trying to build. And then you know you can export it to something like Claude Code and take it to production level. And if I were to guess as to where we're going in the next 6 to 12 months, I would imagine that all of these tools will begin to compete in the making software on demand arena, where something like Framer is right now in web development, where if you compare it to things like Wix and Webflow and WordPress, it makes really pretty websites very quickly. So I think that the market eventually will have a monopoly where you have one mega tool that can go from 0 to 100%, but until we get there, we're still dealing with language models, which hallucinate, have scaling problems, are expensive to run, etc. I think we will have a bifurcated market where there will be from 0 to 30 kind of tools that can maybe get you to some semblance of 100 slower, and then you'll have these tools like Claude Code, where if you know the recipe and the blueprint to use it properly, you can go from 0 to 100, from 20 to 100, you'll have that skill set or that foundation to do whatever you want. Now, if you put your finger